Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, where you learn how to extract your business and personal deep wealth. I'm your host, Jeffrey Feldberg. This podcast is brought to you by Deep Wealth and the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience. When it comes to your business deep wealth, your exit or liquidity event is the most important financial decision of your life. But unfortunately, up to 90% of liquidity events fail. Think about all that time and your hard-earned money wasted. Of the quote-unquote successful liquidity events, most business owners leave 50% to over 100% of the deal value in the buyer's pocket and don't even know it. I should know. I said no to a 7-figure offer and yes to mastering the art and the science of a liquidity event. 2 years later, I said yes to a different buyer with a 9-figure deal. Are you thinking about an exit or liquidity event? Don't become a statistic and make the fatal mistake of believing the skills that built your business are the same ones to sell it. After all, how can you master something you've never done before? Let the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience and the 9-step roadmap of preparation help you capture the best deal instead of any deal. At the end of this episode, take a moment and hear from business owners like you who went through the Deep Wealth Experience. Genady Knizhnik is a passionate technical and organizational leader with entrepreneurial and corporate experience. Genady spent years in the Israeli startup scene prior to moving to Canada. In Canada, Genady co-founded a technology company which was eventually acquired. During his tenure at Agfa HealthCare, Genady's expertise and entrepreneurial drive led to his appointment as the business development director for all of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Following the appointment, he and his family resided in Belgium for 3 years. In his role, Genady was responsible for delivering multi-million-dollar sales objectives and in charge of developing sales capabilities of a new product portfolio across the region. Through his extensive travel, Genady has developed a firm belief that healthcare and education are the most important tenets of a prosperous society. Today, Genady spends his professional time dedicated to improving people's lives through technology across these two domains. Genady now lives in Toronto and is a devoted husband and father of 2 daughters. He's an avid sailor and sports enthusiast and enjoys world travel with his family. Genady holds an MBA from the Richard Ivey School of Business and a BSc in Information Technology from the Israel Institute of Technology. Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, and you would expect nothing less than a truly superb episode, and we are not going to disappoint, because today with us, you heard it in the official introduction, we have really a very talented business owner, entrepreneur, startup, founder, you name it. So I'm going to stop right there. No more spoiler alerts. Genady, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, and you know what? There's always a story behind the story. So Genady, what is your story? What got you to where you are today?
First of all, Jeffrey, thank you very much for having me here. And to answer your question is that my partner, Chris, and I, we are very passionate about education and specifically literacy. And so for many years, we were tossing ideas and just playing with different technology in that space. And one thing that we discovered during that process is that reading represents the most recommended path towards achieving fluency and proficiency in any language. And that got our attention, and we also focused us on the digital language learning market. So we started researching that market, and we came to the conclusion that there is a gap in that industry right now, is that there is a lack of tools for intermediate and advanced language learners. Because I'm sure your listeners and you are aware that there is a gazillions of applications out there that teach English, for example, and the primary focus is foundational skills building. So basically spelling, pronunciation, vocabulary, and so on. But as soon as a student masters those applications, they reach some sort of a learning plateau, because the next step for them is to go and work with tutors or courses, which is quite expensive. The price point changes dramatically when you move from the application space to the human space. And we believe that gap is addressable with today's technologies, and this is how we got started.
So Genady, let's talk about that. And for our listeners, as you're talking through this, they're very familiar with the 9-step deep wealth roadmap. And Step number one, the big picture, is really what you just shared with us right now, because you said, hey, we looked around and we found not only a problem, but a painful problem, and we're really passionate about solving it. There's a gap in the marketplace. Nothing's really going on with that. Why don't we be the ones to jump in and make the difference? So when you went from this idea to let's start this business, how did you go about doing that? What really made the difference for you?
In order to be successful in that industry, you have to show some really true innovation, because the market is conditioned by many companies and there are lots of messages. Some of them are correct, some of them incorrect, and about how much time you need in order to improve. So 10 minutes a day and you will learn another language and so on. So there is a lot of misconception, but also there is a lot of, it's a very crowded market. What we were trying to do is just to identify true differentiation. And that came from a combination of both the technology, which is we utilize the latest AI technologies that are out there, with the methodology, which is the interactive reading or guided reading. That all conceptualized in our heads. But in order to achieve that, we went through many iterations. We did a bunch of trials. We worked with different peoples. We worked with potential customers and so on. We were trying to see whether we are delusional or not. Maybe it's just we fell in love with something that is not real. And through that process, it just crystallized, and we went through many iterations, and to the point that now we have users that spend between 20 to 50 minutes a day using the application daily. We have one guy that did 174 minutes or something like that in one day, which is enormous for today's world where the attention is so fractured and people just spend 2 seconds on everything. And so that gave us a belief that maybe we are on something correct.
And so why don't we talk a little bit about that? And very appropriately, even the website is lilypad.ai, and AI is central to what you're doing. In particular, you have a butterfly, a beautiful butterfly, and a frog. So what's the significance? Why those two characters? Is it symbolic for something, or what's going on with that?
Yes, it is symbolic. And as I mentioned, our passion stems from education. And because we are big believers that education transforms people's lives. Because without education, without specific knowledge, you cannot advance your career or change your prospects in life. If you think about butterfly and the frog, butterfly transforms from a caterpillar into butterfly, and tadpole becomes a real frog. So basically, it's about transformation. It's about transforming your life. And Lilypad is a platform for the next step. So it's kind of our branding, and everything we do is surrounding these three elements, but primarily core in making the difference in people's lives and giving them an opportunity to basically leapfrog from that platform.
I really like the symbolism behind that.
Yeah.
And, before we jump into the technology, what's also interesting, I'll call it your business ethos, because there's some founders that I speak with that are, okay, Jeffrey, we found this gap in the marketplace, and man, oh man, are we going to make a fortune? We're going to solve this problem and we're going to get a lot of money doing that. And yes, you certainly, Genady, you have that opportunity here. There's a philanthropic angle that you're also covering here. Can you share with us what's going on with that?
So there are a couple of aspects to this answer. From the foundational standpoint, as I mentioned, reading plays a critical role for us. So imagine you take reading, you layer AI on top of it, and what happens is you create an interactive reading companion. So if you imagine a child-parent relationship where, let's say, a child reads, the parent reads back, or vice versa, they repeat after each other, or a child reads something and the parent corrects because the child mispronounced something and so on. So now imagine that type of relationship with an artificial being, which we call Lily. And so that it's a starting point. Our technology allows our users to read aloud, interactively, with Lily, without Lily by herself, repeating and so on in many different forms. Every time they read something, every time they make a mistake, or every time they touch a specific word because they didn't know what it means, it creates a personalized experience because every word that they touched or mispronounced becomes part of their personal words. And they follow them around for during our learning module, they're reinforcing the knowledge of those words, how to pronounce them, what their meaning is, and so on. Plus, the problem with many applications today is that you're confined to what they decided you should be learning about. So, for example, everyone needs to know how to buy a ticket at the train station, which is okay. It's an important skill. but not necessarily good for an advanced or intermediate learner, because an intermediate learner coming to, and we're talking about melting pot, like you just mentioned that, coming to New York or whatever, and you want to work in the financial industry, you need to know financial lingo. How do you get that? You go and you import an article from Bloomberg, or you upload a book written by Warren Buffett, whatever, and you use that as a reading material for yourself. And by reading what you love or interested in, you learn the language, but you also acquire the knowledge. So this is one aspect, so the openness of this. And the second part is that you and I can read the same thing, but we will make different mistakes. And so it does not make sense to drill you on my mistakes and vice versa. So this is also taken into account. We combine openness of the platform with hyper-personalization, plus the reading methodology and learning methodology creates this unique, very immersive experience that helps you to progress endlessly, because there is no limit to what you can read. You can start from very basic text, and you can, in the end, you can end up with some academic papers that have very specific terminology. It's up to you. Obviously, we provide a lot of material like TED Talks and famous speeches for people to start from. But if you are a professional who want to prepare for specific industry, this is the best way of doing it. We have some users that told us that they upload a PowerPoint presentation, a text of the PowerPoint presentation, because they're afraid that they will not be understood when they present. So they read to Lily, and it helps them to pace themselves, to develop their inner voice of how to talk, and at the same time get real-time feedback where they were correct or incorrect.
Let's talk about that, though, because you did something interesting, and you just talk about that. You literally took the words out of my mouth. So you came up with this brilliant technology, but then I suspect you realize, well, the technology just on its own isn't going to be enough. We need to get content. We need to get things of interest that people will want to read, follow along, hear how it's being said and what's being done. And so initially you started with some public domain books, but you've expanded because you've now said, okay, well, we can do TED Talks or your favorite blog, or you can take the text from a PowerPoint presentation that you're going to be presenting, and you can upload that onto the system. And it's a very subtle nuance that's easy to miss, but it's huge. So can you explain to our community how exactly that works and the benefits for them?
For sure. So imagine any type of a personal library experience, I don't know, Kindle or anything like that. And usually when you purchase a book, it just magically appears in your library. So you start, when you are subscribed to LilyPad, you start with a predefined library already that is from public domain, plus, as I mentioned, TED Talks, famous speeches, blogs, and so on. But also imagine that now you read an article on the internet, and you just copy a URL of that article, you paste it, our application just go behind the scenes, sucks the text out, and makes that article part of your personal library.
Okay.
And now you can come back to it always. Or if you have a Word document or a PDF file that you created or whatever, you got it and you think it's important for you to get familiar with, you can just upload it. And it becomes part of your library too. Or you can subscribe to your favorite blog. So for example, like something that interests you, technology, finance, whatever, and every post that you're interested, you click on it, same technology goes behind the scenes, sucks the information out, and makes it available in your personal library.
So really what I'm hearing is, ever there's written text, effectively, whether it's even behind a gated kind of content system, as long as I have access to that, I can do a copy and paste, or I can put a URL into, whether it's the app or the website. That information goes into my personal library. And then from there, the AI is going to take over. So at a minimum, LilyPad becomes like a audiobook for whatever I want out there. Is that correct? That if I don't have time to read, or I have a big commute and I'm driving and I say, wow, this is a 20-page article, I'm fascinated, but I can't get to it, I can put it into LilyPad and now I'm hearing it audio-wise.
And yeah, you're absolutely correct. And one of the elements that are critical for language learners is to get familiar with the sound of language, right? So you have to get used to it. So this is one of the reading modes. It's a listening mode, but you're absolutely correct. But it's one of those because you don't have any interaction. You do not read aloud. And if you're on commute and you just want to listen to it, you absolutely can do that. Yeah.
And so I'm thinking now of businesses who are onboarding talent.
Mhm.
And at least where we sit today at the recording time of this podcast, finding talent isn't so easy. There's a shortage of talent. So in other words, it's an employee's marketplace. And so we're working with talent. We're doing the best that we can with that. And because we're now so global, the talent that we hire, they may not be physically in our city. They may be halfway around the world. Maybe English is a second language. But for a business, as an example, through LilyPad, I can go to my team and say, hey, you know what? English isn't your second language, but we have big plans for you. Why don't you go through the LilyPad system and begin to get the nuances of English and the pronunciation and get you the confidence when you're speaking with customers or you're doing a sales presentation, you know that you're doing it right. Am I on base with that?
It's absolutely correct. So just the most trivial example could be a call center. Because call centers, outsourced call centers, they always go through scenarios, right? They have certain scenarios, how they greet the customer, how they resolve issues, and so on. And there's the same patterns of the conversations, also the product knowledge is the same, and so on. So you utilizing the suggestion that you just made, you just can upload this particular rule book or whatever it's called there and go through it with Lily and familiarize yourself not only for the purpose of onboarding, but while doing it aloud, you will also make sure that you sound okay.
That is so terrific. And let's go a little bit behind the technology now, because you really tapped into something that people have been doing for eons. You know, back in the day before we had television and the internet, people would listen to the radio. And then from the radio, we had television and now the internet. But even case in point here at Deep Wealth and in our business group in general, one of my business partners for Embanet, Waleska, who came from Central America, not speaking a word of English. If you were to ask her, how did you learn English? She'd say, well, I watched the program. Remember Alf, you know, with that alien from outer space? But LilyPad is like that, but so much more sophisticated. So how do you start getting results quicker now with the AI and with the technology and taking an old concept and bringing new life to it?
First of all, there is no magic. And you get what you put in with everything else. And this is one of the comments I made earlier, is that sometimes this industry, I'm talking about language learning industry, likes to make claims like 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, and everything magic will happen. We actually, on the website, we have a calculator that we built that we call Fluoroscope that will tell you where you are and where you want to be. And based on the international frameworks, it will tell you how long will it take you to learn it, given how much time you're going to spend during the week. And it just, we build it for fun, because for people to just understand what to expect. But going back to your question, is that there are two elements. The more you experience our interaction with Lily and you read aloud, the more you start hearing yourself more. You start getting confident with the way you speak. You also develop your pace, which is very important, because I had to learn, like English, obviously not my native language. There is a stage when you learn a new language, is that you have to develop a pace of speaking and then being comfortable with that and so on. And basically, by working with the application, you just develop that skill and you get used to both hearing yourself and expressing yourself. And while using proper text, which are properly structured, you also learn the structure of the sentences, you learn the grammar, even without thinking about grammar, because repetition plays a huge role in everything we do. I don't know if it makes sense.
Absolutely. And so let me, Genady, ask you this, and I'm always interesting because founders, they see the world differently than other people. And as business owners, we're just blessed to have that kind of vision. The space that you're in, really a space that has very large players in it. Now, you've certainly found something that's specialized and you're doing it differently. And with your own background, which is an episode in and of itself, Genady, we're not going to go down that path. But from your startup background, where you've been, what you've done, you know, you're certainly savvy, you're smart, you're experienced, you have all of the trademarks and have earned your success along the way. But you're now competing at the surface anyways, from, you know, first glance in, you're competing with some really established players. And so how's the thinking with you and the team of, okay, we're up against very well-capitalized players who dominate the market space. They're the 800-pound gorilla. We're just getting going. We're the startup and don't have the resources that they have. So what was it, Genady? Was there a seminal moment when you said, you know what, we can do this? Let's just go out there. Yeah, it's going to be hard and it's not going to be easy necessarily, but let's just go out there and do it. Was there one moment that comes to mind for that?
Maybe not the moment, but perspective. Because you're absolutely correct. And this was our immediate reaction. Obviously, Duolingo, Babbel, Rosetta Stone, like name me, like all of those, very successful companies then dominate the market and so on. But when you start diving deeper into that, on the surface, you're absolutely correct. But when you start diving deeper to it, we realize we believe we do not compete. We have, I don't know if you've noticed, but we position ourselves as the next chapter.
That's right. The next chapter in your English learning, if memory serves, on your...
Yes. Exactly. And this is because we are not trying to compete with Duolingo. We do not have resources. Like it's an enormous company with enormous outreach and so on. But we believe we provide a complementary service to Duolingo. Because what I mentioned before, when people reach a learning plateau, they need to go somewhere. Duolingo is an incredible company, so we are admiring them. But when you speak to Duolingo users, I don't know if you've ever met some people that use Duolingo, the first thing they brag about is about their streak. Every day, how many days they use it. But it's a great number, so 300. Okay, so for 300 days you use it. But can you speak? Can you speak the language that you're learning? Those are two completely different things.
Yes.
And we believe that we can complement those people with our technology. So it is not a direct competition.
Got it. So really what I'm hearing you say is, at the surface, it may appear that there's some overlap here, but really we're complementary, we're synergistic with what people are doing. So maybe you learned all these words and these word combinations. Can you speak it? Can you really understand it? Come with us. You'll hear your own voice. You have the AI technology behind the scenes that's giving you tips along the way. And I also love on the site that you alluded to a little earlier, and we'll put all this in the show notes, you do have that calculator. Okay, how much time per day are you spending? Where do you rate yourself from novice all the way on up? And we're going to tell you where you're going to be and what that's going to look like. So you're really taking a no BS approach. We're not going to sell you a bill of goods. We're going to tell you as it is. And if you're prepared to put in the time, here's where you're going to get to, and this is what it's going to look like.
Just to build up on these 2 points, the fluoroscope, the calculator, plus the Duolingo or Babbel and so on, it's just, in order to use our site, people have to have a basic knowledge.
Okay.
It's not for just, I never spoken English, I don't know the alphabet, I don't know how to read. It's impossible for them to use it. And it's intentional for us. We were not planning to create a site for true beginners, because this is a very crowded space and it's not interesting space. And the interesting space is that you have achieved certain capabilities. And this is why we truly believe the next chapter are complementary, is because you have to go through Duolingo, through Babbel, through other applications in order to achieve that basic level. Come to us when you want to improve. The second point is that, back to the calculator, is that, but when you come to us, don't learn the language because you're a hobbyist. If you're a hobbyist, you will not persevere here. If you need to learn, then come. Because as you said, we are not trying to mislead anyone. And we truly believe that you get what you put in. So be prepared to read. And maybe people will find reading, some people love reading, some people find it not as interesting as watching movies, for example. But the impact on you as a learner, reading has a much bigger effect, especially if you do this interactive reading. So we are trying to kind of filter out people who just do it for the sake of, because of boredom or whatever, and focus on people who really are dedicated learners.
And I really like your ethos again and your approach. Hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we can do, but this is what we don't do. And really the only question is, how much time are you going to put in? And in addition to that calculator, you have that chart on the website. And if I recall, it starts at maybe 40, 50 hours up to around 300-400 hours, somewhere in there. And okay, depending on where you are you based on this? And this is where you're going to be with our system. And so, Genady, this is done in the privacy of wherever I am, correct? Whether on my computer or on my phone, whether it's the website or the app, that I have access to all this information, whether it's some of the resources or books or TED Talks that you've put on the site, or any information from my industry that I can put into the system, and it'll grab that, and that's where the magic starts to happen. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. We wanted to make sure that learning on mobile or learning on desktop is the same.
And just to throw this out there, as you've been going along, I know you've been getting feedback from the marketplace and from some of your different customers. Are there some success stories that you might be able to share with us of so-and-so came here and look at what happened?
One is that we get paying customers, which is great for any startup.
Congratulations. Yes.
Yeah, so unfortunately that not in the numbers that we would hope for, we want, but it's already a good indication that people believe that this service is valuable and they pay for it real money, which is great. The second point is that because we are paranoid, as you know, as the famous book said, the only paranoid survive.
Yes,
right?
I remember that book. A great book.
Yes, yes, we embody that. Like we constantly trying to understand what we don't know, what we're doing wrong, and we are questioning ourselves all the time. We always exposed. We are trying to talk to people from the industry and so on. So we were just recently profiled by a company from UK, which called Educational Apps, which profiles a lot of different applications in the world of education. And specifically, they did a report on us, and it was without our involvement. We just gave them, here's the URL, just write whatever you think is correct. And they did, it was written by professionals, so like teachers and things, and they gave us very good review, and they gave us a seal of approval and things like that, which positioned us on their site second after Duolingo, which was very nice for us.
Yeah, congratulations again. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So no, good things are happening. It's just, as you know, when you're in the dark and you're just fighting your fight, and it's just,
And Genady, let me ask you this, and this is really more on mindset, and mindset is really on the art side of business. As I'm speaking with you, we've had a few conversations, and now today, as we're going through this, I'm really hearing an understated confidence in what you're doing, even with, okay, look, here's our website. We're not going to tell you what to write. If you like it, that's great. And if you don't like it, that's okay too. Do whatever you want. And you put that out there. Or even when you come for prospective customers, okay, what you put in is what you get out. We're not going to overhype. We're not going to do anything other than this is who we are and this is what we do. So aside from LilyPad, because this is really the fabric of LilyPad, but it's also the fabric of you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a founder. Where does this come from, this understated confidence of, okay, here I am. This is what it is. You'll like it. That's great. And if you don't, that's okay too.
It's a very deep question. But I don't think I'm the only one who is the source of that confidence, because my partner, unfortunately, he couldn't join us. He's a very successful serial entrepreneur. Because we are so brutally honest with ourselves, and we constantly question ourselves, and we argue about things, because but it's all towards the benefit, providing value to our customers, because we're obsessed with our customers, because we know that even this market, if we cannot deliver value, it just, so we want our customer to brag about us, be conversational with their peers. And it stems from enormous attention to details that we have. And it comes from I don't know if you've noticed it on the website, but everything we do must look well and work well. This is our mantra inside. It looks good, works well.
Yes, your colors pop, the way you position things. I mean, all the little things that most people overlook, you've put into that. And you even have the personality of the company coming through, and a little bit off topic, but related, because we're talking about your culture now, which is so important for a business as it begins that whole march towards creating that market disruption and growing. I know there's a big picture here of beyond the adult market space that we're talking about and what you're doing on the corporate side of things. But even on the website itself, you have all these different organizations that you call it You and Me and C-Scope. And you're showing different organizations that you're really supporting and highlighting and giving illumination to. So what's that all about? Where's this coming from?
Chris is an avid diver, and he is passionate about marine life. And so C-Scope is our corporate responsibility, as well. It's something that these organizations that we want to highlight, donate to, and so on, that focus on endangered marine animals and basically doing an important work outside of language learning.
Okay, so it's terrific. You're taking your passions in the business, outside the business, and blending them together and putting it forward to the world of, okay, here we are. This is what we're doing. And Genady, let me ask you this, because you're really in the thick of things. And let's go behind the scenes for just a moment. So technology is at the heart of what you're doing. And you're making a huge difference out there because, number one, you're taking the cost equation out of the picture. So gone are the expensive one-on-one tutors that you might traditionally have done, or these expensive courses. that you have to either show up in person to, or maybe you're now doing virtually and it's at a set time and it's not at your convenience. And you're putting the power to the people at their own time, their own convenience, and they have the machine learning behind the scenes that's guiding them along the way. If you're to look out, you pick the time frame, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, where we are today with AI and what you're doing, where do you think this is taking us and where it's all heading and looking like?
It's an amazing field. We just put language learning aside. The innovation in different technologies that we are using, which is basically natural language processing, which is related to dialogue management, conversation, the application of that technology is enormous. And because when we played with different prototypes and things like that, before we started, we played with some math-related things. And if I had enough resources, we could have built something incredible. So, but we just need, and obviously people like without our help will do that as well. If we stop tomorrow, someone will do it, because the profound impact of what is available right now, and it will just improve, if not bigger, but at least as important as internet disruption.
Wow, that's a really big statement. So can you transport us into the future somewhat with what would that practically look like? So today we have an app and it has content, or we're feeding it content and we're speaking to it and it's speaking to us and it's analyzing us. Where do you think it's all heading? What would that look like in the next, 5-10 years?
I can give you some very basic practical thing that we had and played with. And because both Chris and I, at that time we had young kids and we were quite concerned about the level of education they get. So we started to play with some math related things. There are millions of math games there, and it's a very crowded market for children and so on. And there are very beautiful products there. But we come from a perspective, same philosophy that's behind the Lillipad. It's just, yes, it's great that you played 300 hours of the game, but do you really know what you're doing? We found a math methodology that can be translated into the true conversational education, by machine. And we created a prototype. And I put my daughter in front of it. And she said, you know what the best thing about that thing is? That it doesn't get mad.
Oh, from the mouth of a child, what they see and what they say.
So it was quite funny, but it was just a silly prototype. But the thing to get serious is just healthcare, education, decision-making. All of those industries are going to be disrupted. They are already being disrupted, but they will be disrupted. Like things that are possible, even with today's technology, if you have resources and dedicated mind, are incredible, just incredible.
And speaking of disruption, Genady, if we were to fast forward to any point in time, we have, it's my magic wand, my famous magic wand, where, okay, here's my magic wand, Genady, you've grown as a company, you've achieved the goals that you've wanted to achieve. What does LilyPad look like for you? What's that vision of, you've made it, you've created a market domination and market disruption, you're dominating the market, you're a market leader. What does that look like as a company, and what are you doing at that point?
At that point, we are going to turn towards literacy in children.
Okay, and so what does that look like, the literacy in children?
I don't know if you're aware, but even in the United States, there is roughly 30 or 40 million adults that illiterate, which is 10% or something like that. And just forgive me if I'm mistaken, but it's quite a large number. And from children's standpoint, if you look, again, it's a problem of literacy, obviously, is being addressed, and there are billions and billions being poured into it, and there are wonderful organizations out there that are trying to solve it. But I think a technological approach towards just in reading, to the basic thing that is in the convenience of your house or your environment, with the real-time feedback, with the real-time improvement, will have a tremendous impact, not only because of technical aspects of it, because, as you know, once you created a technology, it's very cheap. It's very cheap to replicate. There is no marginal cost of acquiring a service in another user. Like, it's a minimum. So there are many things that can be done there from a technical innovation perspective, but also to bring the value for adult and child literacy eradication, like issue eradication.
Wow, that's a big vision, attacking really a problem that we don't hear enough about, but is really there. And I can only imagine when people who perhaps didn't have the opportunity in school, or they don't really know how to read, it's a whole other episode of the social issues and societal issues that come from that, where here's an effective yet inexpensive solution that you're in charge of, that's now leading the way to be able to do that. And so bringing this all together then, and then we're going to go into a wrap up here. So really what I'm hearing is whether it's for a business owner who just started a business, English is not the first language, you don't have that confidence when you're speaking to other people in English to sell the business or promote it or get new clients, or as a business owner, I have really talented staff. They do interface with either clients or the marketplace, and their English isn't quite up to where it should be. Here's a very effective, both time and dollar-wise, a very effective way to really round out the English and get that confidence in the person, have everything really done properly in terms of pronunciation, and very flexible in terms of doing that. So there's all kinds of business applications. And then I'm hearing you say that from there, once you're really having that market disruption in the business world, you'll then take it to children and children who can't read, and even adults who can't read at that point, and see where that goes.
Yeah, the only thing is I don't want to hear the bombastic and solving the world's problems and so on. I don't want to come across as that this I'm changing it's not about that. It's just we are trying to make a difference the way we can. There's a very small story that we usually use. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've heard it, but there is this old man stands on the beach and sees another young man going just a little bit far from mm-hmm. just picking up something and throwing into the water. So the closer the old man comes to that boy, he sees mm-hmm. that there are lots of starfish on the beach, mm-hmm. and because of storm. And the boy picks up the starfish and tosses them into the water. So the old man asks, why are you doing that? And he said, because I'm trying to make a difference and I want to bring them back into the ocean. He said, but mm-hmm. it's impossible because there are so many of them. You will never make a difference. So the boy picks up and throws the starfish and said, but it did make a difference for this one.
A powerful story. The power of even one. Yes.
Exactly. So I don't want to come across as this, we are changing the world, this revolutionary, whatever. It's just, we're focusing on what is possible. We are trying to make a dent in the market. We don't have any grandiose messianic ambition or anything like that.
Well, really, you're one of the rare individuals who says, I will speak to you through my actions, not my words. And this is who we are, and this is how we're making a difference. And I really admire and respect that in you. So with that in mind, this is a terrific segue as we begin to wrap up our time together. And I'd like to do a thought experiment with you. And earlier in the episode, we're doing time travel. This is another time travel thought experiment. It's a fun one, though. So imagine the movie Back to the Future. And in the movie, you have that magical DeLorean car that can take you to any point in time. And Genady, it's now tomorrow morning, and you look outside your window, and there it is. The DeLorean car is not only sitting there, but the door is open, and it's waiting for you to hop on in so you can jump to any point in your life. Maybe it's Genady as a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be. What are you telling your younger self in terms of, hey, Genady, here's some life lessons or some life wisdom, or do this, but don't do that? What would that sound like?
I would focus on the following. I think I learned it too late in life. It's just, I don't know if you're familiar with this theory, or it's part of the Stoicism philosophy. It's just when you have three concentric circles, right? There is mm-hmm. this first circle is that what you control. Mm-hmm. The second circle is what you influence. Mm-hmm. And the third circle is what is outside of your control.
Yes.
You're familiar with that concept?
I am, but please, for our listeners, please continue.
So I learned it too late in life, because as a paranoid person, and you think about many things, you're trying to address things that are beyond your control, and mm-hmm. you burn a lot of energy in doing that. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn early, focus on what you can do. This is where the ethos of everything I'm speaking about mm-hmm. comes from. Mm-hmm. It's just focus. What is your control? Focus on what you can influence, mm-hmm. but forget everything else. And it took me some time to learn that, but I wish I learned it when I was 18.
But you know what? Very wise words, terrific advice. It's a wonderful way to wrap things up with on that sentiment of really focus on the things that you can control. And Genady, as I look at today and what you're saying, it's so timely because with social media, it's just made it so easy for us to really get caught up in so many things that are outside of our control, and it can create mental health issues and stress, and all that time, energy, and effort could be put to better use, just like what you're doing and what the team is doing, and other people to follow their own path. So that is absolutely terrific. And we're going to put this in the show notes, Genady, so it'll be point and click. If someone would like to either learn more about the company or even get in touch with you, Genady, the one of the brilliant co-founders behind LilyPad. What's the best way to find you online?
So obviously our website is lilypad.ai, and we can be found on the Android mobile store. So in the Google Play, you just search for LilyPad English Learning, and just it will show up. You will see the frog jumping at you. And if anyone wants to connect with us, it's just info@lilypad.ai, and that's it.
Can't get any easier. Well, Genady, thank you so much for taking part of your day and your insights, your wisdom, and sharing your story with us. And as we wrap things up, as always, please continue to stay healthy and safe.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It was a tremendous opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
The Deep Wealth experience was definitely a game changer for me.
This course is one of the best investments you will ever make, because you will get an ROI of 100 times that. Anybody who doesn't go through it will lose millions.
If you don't have time for this program, you'll never have time for a successful liquidity.
I mean, it was the best value of any business course I've ever taken. The money was very well spent.
Compared to when we first began, today I feel better prepared, but in some respects, maybe less prepared, not because of the course, but because the course brought to light so many things that I thought we were on top of that we need to fix.
I 100% believe there's never a great time for a business owner to allocate extra hours into his or her week or day. So it's an investment that will yield results today. I thought I will reap the benefit of this program in 3 to 5 years down the road. But as soon as I stepped forward into the program, my mind changed immediately.
There was so much value in the experience that the time I invested paid back so much for the energy that was expended.
The Deep Wealth experience compared to other programs is the top. What we learned is very practical. Sometimes you learn stuff that is great to learn, but you never use it. The stuff we learned from Deep Wealth experience, I believe it's going to benefit us both.
I've done an executive MBA. I've worked for billion-dollar companies before. I've worked for smaller companies before I started my business. I've been running my business successfully now for getting close to a decade. We're on a growth trajectory. Reflecting back on the Deep Wealth, I knew less than 10% what I know now. Maybe close to 1% even.
Hands down the best program in which I've ever participated. And we've done a lot of different things over the years. We've been in other mastermind groups, gone to many seminars, workshops, conferences, retreats, read books. This was so different. I haven't had an experience that's anything close to this in all the years that we've been at this. It's 5-star, A+.
I would highly recommend it to any super busy business owner out there. And Deep Wealth is an accurate name for it. This program leads to deeper wealth and happier wealth, not just deeper wealth. I don't think there's a dollar value that could be associated with such an experience and knowledge that could be applied today and forever.
Are you leaving millions on the table? Please visit www.deepwealth.com/success to learn more. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be. Sign up at www.deepwealth.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, if it added value, if you walked away with some new insights and strategies, please leave a review on your favorite podcast channel. Reviews help us reach new listeners, grow the show, and continue to create content that you'll enjoy. And as we wrap up this episode, as always, please stay healthy and safe.